I'm all about like, don't waste time, find the joy, find the work that brings you joy, and do the things that you love and figure out how to make money from that.
Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. Discover yourself, break out of mediocrity, and become the mom you've always aspired to be. Here's your host, Kirsten Tyrell.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. I'm super excited to be here with the amazing Abbi Perets. Am I saying that right? Perets?
You are.
Perets?
You're good.
Perfect.
Perets. You're good.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to share your message with everybody and just kind of what you do. I love giving fresh perspective. You live such a different life than I live, but you are also a mompreneur. You do business from home. And I just want to share your story. So welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Abbi has endured all the technical difficulties you can imagine today. She's being so patient with me. So welcome. Thanks for being here, Abbi.
Thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, I hope you say that. By the end, you're going to be like, this girl, she's kind of a hot mess. And like, I think she's been podcasting for like almost 3 years, but you could never tell. Whatever.
No, not at all. It's the bouncing right back. It's the never let him get you down. What was that commercial? I'm really old. So like that commercial about never let him see you sweat, right? So
Oh my gosh, it sounds familiar, but I don't know what product it was for.
It was like a deodorant thing, I think, right? So.
Yeah, I'm sure. So they got halfway there. It was like a memorable ad, but we don't remember the company.
Right.
So close.
Exactly.
So tell everybody how many kids you have. You're currently living in Israel. Just give us a little background on like your day right now.
Yes. So Abbi in 25 words or less, right?
Yes.
I don't actually do 25 words or less. I'm very wordy. So, okay. So I have 5 kids, ages 8 through 18. And that's exciting now, but like when they were younger and they were like, 0 through 10 years, it was a lot harder. Now I have, a little more space, a little more time, a little more room, which is exciting. I do live in Israel. My husband is Israeli, and we have gone back and forth over the 21 years of our marriage. I think it's 21 or 22. I'm sorry. I'm like terrible with numbers and all that kind of stuff. So, I've always needed something that could kind of travel with me. So, I've always been a writer, and I fell into the freelancing thing when I had my first kid because, mostly because I didn't really want to have a real job, like that whole, dealing with people and getting dressed every day and just but a lot of it was the people, like talking to people all day every day. That was just not going to work for me. I was like, no, I can't do that. So the freelance thing really seemed to work for me. And then so like I said, I have 5 kids. My middle child has special needs. So when he was born, and he was getting a lot of different therapies, occupational therapy and physical therapy and speech therapy and developmental therapy and whatever. And so, being at home was even more critical. And I wouldn't call that period of time necessarily working from home. It was more like being at home and trying to just keep things under control. And occasionally, doing a little bit of client work on the side kind of thing. But there was no way that I could have functioned. If I had a traditional job at that point, I would have been fired. And so because we were used to kind of getting by with my husband's income plus what I was managing to bring in the different times in my life, it worked out for us. And then that same kid, because he's, awesome. He had leukemia. He was diagnosed in 2013 when he was 10 years old, and he was very, very sick for like 2.5 years, during which time I definitely did not work. I did not bring in 1 penny of income, but I didn't even try. Like the first thing I realized was that I was not going to be able to provide any kind of service for my clients during that time. So I literally contacted everyone I had been working with at that time. And by that time, my kids were older and were in full day programs. So I was, doing a little more, and I had some more steady work, but I handed it all off, closed out projects, and spent 2.5 years hanging out in the hospital, which I don't recommend. But it worked out. No, not fun. It worked out. The boy lived. I call him the boy who lived.
That's awesome.
And he is amazing. And now, I mean, you know, I don't want to say thanks to cancer for anything because cancer sucks and we don't thank it at all, but it did help me to really get clear on what I wanted for myself and my business, and my life in general. So, you know, I'm all about like, don't waste time, find the joy, find the work that brings you joy, and do the things that you love and figure out how to make money from that. So
That's amazing.
That's where I am now. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know what I love about that too is last time when we were talking and then I got cut off because of technology, I was just saying it's so great on these interviews to hear kind of you on the flip side of something really, really hard, because there's women listening right now who might be in the middle of their difficult moment. They might be in the middle of the struggle. It could be with cancer. I'm thinking of somebody very specifically right now who's going through this. And so just to kind of hear that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, or that they'll make it through regardless. Like, even if he wasn't the boy who lived, I think you'd find a totally different purpose, and maybe it would be much the same now, as like, life is so fleeting. I know what I need to do. You get so much clarity. So I love that. I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that your son lived through cancer.
Thank
because
you.
I know it's horrible, but I love that clarity, and I love that message, and just to kind of hear that encouragement that you made it through. So that's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about your business. And like, I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit. You've been a writer, freelance writing. So now how is that? Because I know no business starts and ends the same. It's probably morphed into something very different now. So what does it look like today?
Completely different. So 20 years ago when I started, now remember, this was 20 years ago. So the internet was not like the way it is now. Like, you didn't have people teaching you online how to do all these things. So you had to figure stuff out by yourself. You had to like go to the card catalog and look stuff up. So I know, right? So I started out writing articles about parenting and pregnancy because that was kind of what I knew about. And I did that for like little regional parenting magazines and then larger parenting magazines. I did for some online parenting sites, but they weren't sites the way we know them to be today. They were much smaller with much smaller audiences back then. And over time, you know, I fell into different types of things. Today, what I do is so completely different. Today, I write email sequences and sales pages for online entrepreneurs. 98.4% of them are women. Occasionally, I'll work with a guy if he comes in with really good references. But the vast majority of my work is with women, and mostly moms, because they don't freak out if we're in the middle of a call and a kid walks in. Now, this actually happened. I was on a call with a client and my daughter walked in wearing a tiara and a pitchfork. My daughter is 17. This was not like a 4-year-old, okay? My daughter is 17. She walked in wearing a tiara and a pitchfork. And I was like, what? And the client was like totally cool. You know, she was like, yeah, whatever, you know, Tuesday. Whereas, you know, like men would be like, I think you need to deal with that. That looks like a big problem. So, you know, it's much easier to deal with women. So the work that I do now, number one, I find it so exciting because I get to meet women who are building amazing businesses and who are doing amazing things and who are serving very specific audiences and helping people with different products and services. And I get paid really well for it, and it doesn't feel like work for me. So a lot of people really struggle. A lot of online business owners really struggle with the writing piece because that's not what they're selling. You know, that's not their focus. It's not the heart of their business. And it's not something that they ever thought, oh, I'll be writing email sequences. And that's not fun for everyone. For me, when I wake up in the morning and all I can think is, oh, today I get to write that email sequence. I'm so excited. I can already see it in my head. I know how I'm going to plan it out. I can't wait. Like, I write subject lines for fun in the shower. Like, that's how I get my.
That is so cool.
I'm a fairly boring person, apparently, but
I don't think that sounds boring. Maybe it's because I'm an entrepreneur and I know the value in email sequences and in really good subject lines.
Right.
Like, I get it, and so I totally do this in different ways. Like, I'm in the process of trying to outline a book right now, and you just need one of those like dictaphones. Is that what they're called? Like with you all the time, just be able to take notes.
Yes.
And like all of the things. So I get your process and I think it's awesome. And it just shows how much, first of all, how good you are at it and how passionate you are about it. And that's what makes you good, is the passion, and that you're doing it in the shower.
It was just totally, and if you had told me even 10 years ago, if you had said, Abby, you can get paid twice as much as what you're getting paid to work with crap clients who like don't respect you and don't appreciate I can't tell you how many times in my past life I would hear, well, it's just the writing. I mean, why are you it's just the writing, and be like, yeah, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's just writing.
Yeah, it's like just words. What's the big deal? And and now I work with women who just have tremendous respect for the piece that I bring to the table, which is exciting and fulfilling, obviously. And it's just so cool to work with people who are in love with their own businesses, and who, when they start talking about their programs, their products, their services, whatever it is, they light up. And we have these awesome conversations. And almost every call that I'm on with a client turns into like, oh, well, let's figure out this piece that like 2 years from now, you could be offering this and you could be standing on the stage and giving a TED talk, whatever, how all those pieces fit together. And it is just like, I sometimes say to myself, is this really is this my life? Is this what I get to do? Yeah. So
that's so cool.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
So basically what you just said is, it might sound like it's the most boring thing ever, but it's actually the most awesome thing ever, right?
It is. It really, you know what? It's I think that one man's boring is another man's awesome. I've just completely wrecked some old saying, whatever. But, I
actually think you just made it glorious. I totally love. I love that phrase. I will stand behind that. But it's because it's true. And that's why, people listening right now might be like, this is not clicking and resonating with me. But what's resonating with them is the passion that you have about it. It's the excitement that you feel. And they're like, I don't even know what this means, but I love it. And I love Abby because she's excited about what she does. And other women want to have that same passion for everything they do, regardless of if they're a mom or not.
Absolutely.
All of us have the same desire to wake up and be excited about what we get to do that day.
No,
if it's an email series they get to write, if it's, for me, if it's like a makeover that I have scheduled, or it's a podcast interview I get to record, this totally lights me up and it lights my fire. So I think that is the underlying, one man's boring is another man's jubilee.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny. So, the other side of my business is at successfulfreelancemom.com. I teach moms who are at home with kids how to get started in freelance writing. And the very first thing that I tell them, people come in, they're like, they have to understand what freelance writing is, and that looks different for people, and that's okay. But I tell them, if you want to make money from writing, you need to figure out what you want to write and who you write it for. And that's where the money comes. Until you can really get super clear on what you write and who it's for, you don't know what you're selling. And that's really true for any business. And until you know what you sell and who you sell it to, you can't. People are like, where are the clients? And I'm like, so here's the deal. There's no actual website called The Clients Are Here. That would be super cool, but it doesn't exist.
Weird. How weird.
I know, right? But once you get clear on that piece of this is what I do and this is who it's for, you will be astounded at, I literally feel sometimes like money rains down, I don't have to go out and look for it. When my students come to me and they say, well, where do I find the clients? And I'm like, I can't answer that question until you tell me what you write and who it's for. Then I can tell you where to go. So
yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
You're totally right. And that's a piece that a lot of business owners are missing. It's something I feel like I knew was there, but I couldn't really identify it. And till recently, I just went to a really awesome branding workshop and really got clear on no, really, why did I start Marvelous Moms Club? Why did I start all of these ventures? And what does that boil down to? Who are we talking to right now? Who's listening to this interview? And what value do I want to provide them? And once you get really clear on that, it's so easy to continue to give them.
Easy. It just makes
so good.
So good and so much fun.
Yes. I'm really wondering who right now is listening going I don't know what's happening right now between these two, but
they're
super nerdy.
Weird. Yeah, no, totally.
Or they're I want to speak that language. I want to know what it is that they're talking about. Absolutely. Because it's so good, guys. I promise.
It is.
So now that your kids are a little bit older and you kind of talked about navigating that territory, there were just years that you couldn't really put into your business. So speak to moms like me who are in the phase where my oldest is 8 and my youngest is almost 4, and I'm still kind of in that mode. What advice would you give to moms who are just starting a work from home business?
Absolutely. So I believe that for any business to be successful, there are 3 critical foundational pieces, and those are time, habits, and mindset. So the first thing you have to know is, how do you spend your time? And we all have ideas about how we spend our time, and we're usually wrong. So
totally.
I don't want to call anybody a liar, but you're a liar.
No, totally. You do it so I don't have to, because it's so true.
So one of the first things that I make my students do is, I call it, it needs a better name, and I'm a writer, so you'd think I'd come up with one. But right now it's called a time audit. And I know that sounds scary and icky and not at all fun, but it's actually very cool. You track your time for a full week, and in a week, there's 168 hours. I did not do the math. I am actually like, I did that with a cat, 24 times 7, 168. There you go. Okay. So there are 160.
Good job.
Thank you. There are 168 hours in the week, and you get to pick what you spend your 168 hours on. So some of those hours go to sleep. Although if you're like a mom of young kids, it's not 7 hours a night. It's like maybe 5 or 6 hours a night times 7. So you see where, like, there are pieces of your week that go to things that are maybe outside of your control, but there are still large chunks of time that are within your control. And you have to get really clear on where you actually spend your time versus where you think you spend your time, and be super, super honest. So it's like if you're tracking your food, if you only write down the carrots, but you don't write down the cookies that you ate when you were driving carpool, it's not going to count. Like, it's not going to work. So you have to be
honest. You're not
tricking
anybody.
No, not. And, and you're only hurting you, because if you're honest about your time, and like, so when I did this exercise for the first time, like a decade ago, I discovered that I spent an insane amount of time, like an embarrassingly insane amount of time, playing Words with Friends on my phone. So and I mean like 14 hours a week, like without noticing, because, it's there, and you just play your turn and you play your turn and whatever. So I deleted it from my phone, and I kept it on my iPad, because I used my iPad in very different situations from where I used my phone. By making this one tiny change that cost me absolutely no money, like, this was not something that I had to pay to do or whatever. I deleted one app from my phone, and I gave myself back like 14 hours in my week. Like, that's crazy. Okay. So
that's so crazy.
Right. So also speaks to my addiction with words, but,
hey, I mean, it's a worthy. I have people who are super addicted to this game. They're like, at least it's making me smarter and growing my vocabulary. I'm like,
exactly.
Okay, spend 14 hours studying a thesaurus or a dictionary.
That's right. But once you get honest with your time, the second thing I tell women is to find 7 to 10 hours in your week. If you're serious about building a business, 7 to 10 hours in your week, so about an hour a day and a little more on the weekends, where you are not the primary caregiver for your children. So this means, it doesn't have to mean go out and pay for babysitting. It can, you can get very creative. You can trade off with your spouse. You can say, I need this time. You can say, you can find a middle school student who can push a baby in a stroller. A high school student can do more actual babysitting. You can trade with another mom. But if you can find that 7 to 10 hours in your week where you are not the primary caregiver for your children, you can use that time to build your business. Now, I'm not taking into account client work that you may have, because I figure that once you have client work, that should start to pay for some childcare hours. So this is just 7 to 10 focused hours during the week where you are doing the things that build your business. So to get those clients, to get in front of those people. That's the first piece, is the time. Then the second piece is habits. And I teach a piece called Tiny Habits, a process called Tiny Habits that's based on the work of BJ Fogg, who is a professor out of Stanford University. And so Tiny Habits work where you have an anchor, something that you're already doing in your life. Like every morning I come downstairs and I turn on the coffee machine. That's like, I can do it with my eyes closed, still half asleep. It's going to happen, right? And then if I use that as an anchor and I set up something really, really tiny on top of that. So if I said to myself, okay, as soon as I turn on the coffee maker, I'm going to open the dishwasher so that I can unload it. And you don't start off by unloading the dishwasher. You start off just by opening the dishwasher. And once it's open, that's going to prompt the next action, which might be to unload some of the dishes. And ultimately, you'll get to unload the whole dishwasher, right? And with a tiny habit,
Yeah.
there's a third piece to it where you celebrate your wins. So like I have my students do like an actual, like some kind of a victory dance or something like that. And so then you can build these habits around your business. So for example, with marketing, I teach my students that a habit that you should have in your day, and that we work on how exactly to create this and what the anchor should be for each person, that you're pitching 3 times a day, that you're getting out in front of 3 people every single day. And if you don't do that, like something feels off. It's like not brushing your teeth in the morning. You're like, wait, I forgot to do something. So, so you want it to be such an instinctual action that it is a habit. And then mindset is the third piece. I'm a huge fan of Carol Dweck and her work on mindset. Yeah, great stuff. So it's really, it's number one, it's believing that you are a person who can do this, but it's also internalizing the fact that screwing up doesn't make you a failure. Like if you're not screwing up, it means you're just never out of your comfort zone. You're never trying anything new. It's really easy. And this is the trap that a lot of people fall into. You get to a point, you start to build a business, and that's exciting and scary. And you get to a point where you're making a little bit of money. Let's say you're making in that $500 to $1,000 a month. And that's really exciting if you've never made money on your own before.
Right.
And it gets really easy to stay right there because you're doing things that are safe and you're working with small clients who don't demand that much from you, and you're delivering and everybody's happy. And it's really scary to then take on a big project that might pay you like $3,000 or $4,000 from one client, but that client is going to expect that you deliver. And that's a huge leap to take. Like that's terrifying for I think almost everyone.
Yeah.
And it's really, so a lot of us kind of get stuck in that earlier stage and, I'm really happy. I'll just make this little bit of money and this is totally cool. And after a while, you have to decide, okay, is this really where I'm going to stay forever? Is this what I'm going to do? Or am I going to move on to that next level? So that's where the mindset piece really comes in. So I truly believe that those 3 foundational pieces have to be in place. Especially if you're a mom with young kids at home and your time is limited, the time piece is absolutely critical. You have to know how you spend your time. And then establishing habits. So a lot of my anchors are linked to my kids. Like my 8-year-old walks in the door every day at 2 p.m. and I hear him coming up the front walk. So as I hear him, I have an admin file on my computer, and that's my cue to open the admin file as my son comes in the door. I open the admin file and I close the laptop, and then I hang out with my kids. But then when I come back to my computer in the afternoon, that admin file is the first thing that I see. So it's all these stupid little tasks, invoicing and just filing things properly so that they get done the right way. And they're not the fun, sexy parts of running a business, but they're things that have to happen. And I know that if I don't do them, my business will suffer. So I have this anchor of my kid coming home. Right. I set up that file. And then later when I come back to work, it's waiting for me and I do it and it's automatic and I don't have to think about it. So all of those pieces work together to help you when you have, those kids at home who take up a good portion of your time. And that's an important piece. It's also really, really, really important to remember that there are seasons of life, and your kids, as much as you think it's never, ever going to happen, they will actually get older one day. And, you'll get to a point where every child in your house not only can go to the bathroom by him or herself, they can make their own food. Like when the youngest in my house learned to fry an egg, I was like, my work here is done. So very exciting.
I'm out.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad. Those are such 3 great principles. We're going to have those in the show notes if you guys want to go review them, because it's so true. And I love that you kind of called them out on the time thing, because that's the number one excuse I hear when people want to start doing business or they want to do something with me. And they're like, I just don't know if I'll have time. I'm like, oh, darling, we all have 24 hours in a day. I'm going to show you how to bend that time to your will and make it work for you. So I'm glad you started there. And all of the other things are so true and so important. So if people want to get to know you better, they want to work with you, where should they go?
So come and visit me at successfulfreelancemom.com, and that'll take you, everywhere you need to go. I've got links to the few social things that I do, which, are not many. bad at that piece. I'm getting better at it. But you can find, if you're interested in freelance writing, I have a free 5-day course on how to be a freelance writer. If you need somebody to write your amazing email sequence, you can easily find my email there, and I can show you the hidden pages on my site where you can learn all about that. It's not really hidden. It's just that I haven't built a header for it yet. So,
Got it.
But I'm there. Cool. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. Awesome. Okay. And then my favorite question, what makes you a marvelous mom?
Well, I didn't kill anybody today, so I'm already winning.
That's the first time I've ever heard that answer. And I thought I had heard them all, but that is officially, that's a new one.
Honestly, those are, there are days where I'm like, that's all I actually, it's very funny because I make my students write an I'm awesome list and they have to put 100 things on it. And I tell them it can be things like, I did not kill a single one of my children today, even though they really deserved it multiple times. Therefore, I am awesome. And that is totally okay. But I don't know. I mean, yes, I kept them alive, and that is very exciting to me. I think also because I genuinely like my children. I don't just love them. I genuinely like them and enjoy the people they are becoming. And that's also a very exciting part of having your kids get older and like become actual people you can have real conversations with. That's very exciting. So,
right.
There you go.
I love it. That's great. That's a great answer. They were both great, but that's awesome. Well, thank you for being on here. You have truly shown us what it means to be a marvelous mom, and I'm so grateful for your messaging. I love all the business talk. I love the mommy talk, and I look forward to sharing this with everybody. So thank you so much, Abbi.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Anytime. You're welcome back anytime.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys, for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a marvelous day.